What is up, RPG fans? In this video, I'll be ranking all the bosses in Live Alive. This was requested by someone, and it took me so long to do it. I feel really bad that it took me this long, but here we are with a ranking of all the bosses in Live Alive. Great game. So these are kind of in a random order. I apologize, but I'll try to make it make sense. So in the first one we've got here, this is the second secret boss in the Twilight of Edo Japan chapter, and that is the guy that you just duel. He's a cool fight. Let me look up what his name is. I forgot what his name. Live Alive bosses. Someone cringe. Like, dude, emote. I'm gonna be name. Oh, Bloodthirsty Samurai. Twilight of Edo Japan. Yeah. So, the name's the Bloodthirsty Samurai, and you know what? This is actually a super hype fight. I'm actually going to throw it up in the S tier. It might be controversial, but this guy is just awesome. It's not as difficult as Lord Iwama anyway, I think. But these optional fights in the early chapters just have a way of making you perfect your moves and make you master this game like as soon as you start. Like it just, what I love about this game and what I hope if they ever make like a Live Alive 2 is I want every chapter to have one of these like secret bosses where it just tests how well you know the character or characters of that chapter. And just it tests this boss in Lord Iwama, just tests your strength of being able to play as Odeo so well, and it's crazy how difficult it ends up being. Guy, you just have to perfectly you just have to be perfect with your tile movements, and this guy, cool, he chases you around. I really liked like throwing shurikens at him and just making sure so you can get the sword. And yeah, it's not like S plus, but it's pretty close. So I'm gonna move some of these around. I don't want them just to be a bunch of secret bosses in a row. Speaking of though, this is the secret boss Lucretius, and it is a kind of a reskin of Lord Iwama. And unfortunately, I'm gonna have to go in the D tier with this guy. It's just a way worse Lord Iwama that is infinitely easier to kill at this point, and it is a reskin and sure has a different name and all that, but it just really is nothing too special. Again, it's a reskin of Lord Iwama without the difficulty and necessity to really get good at the game. Next, we have Jaggedy Jack, which is just this like just four of these goobers, and you just gotta like kill them. And to me, it's the definition of a C tier fight. It's not a reskin. It is a bit interesting, but if you bring any smart, like if you bring like Sundown, Obero, Pogo, and I don't know, someone else, probably a healer's like you're just gonna own various. Oh, the disciple. Just bring in some characters, and there's four of them, and they don't have that much health. So as long as you don't let them team up on you too much, then you've basically. So unfortunately, this is not too special, but you know what? It's pretty decent. So, all right, next we've got another secret boss, and this one is. I gotta refresh on the names because these secret. Euraokos. That's what it's called. So this is the one you fight in the Trial of Wisdom in Cube's dungeon, and like this little like monster thing. I really think that these boss fights where you have everybody aren't as interesting just because they're so much more cheesable. Again, I'm gonna say this is a C tier, low C tier. It's not awful, but it just really is pretty simple mechanical monster. It's weak to magic. Just hit it with Ura or even Sundowns. You're just so it's nothing too special, unfortunately. All right, next we have got another secret. The reason I'm putting a lot of these secret bosses at the beginning is because a lot kind of so Is this another secret one? Yes, this is the Death Prophet. It's like this weird tiger thingy. Again, it just is a little too easy. But it is kind of funny how you have to get this. You have to run 100 times, which you would never do unless you knew this was a thing. So that's just funny because you're not going to even fight 100 battles going around. But that does make it a little funny in my opinion. Oh, we don't have a B tier. I knew that's weird. That was really weird looking. I was like, what? Okay, we've got this B tier now. Yeah. Anyway, this is a pretty good boss, and the reason I noticed is because I want to put it in B. But yeah, it's just funny how you have to fight the boss, and it actually, you have to rely on physical attacks here, and just do some good damage. And it's not hard, but again, it's just funny how you have to run into it. I think that makes him a more memorable. All right, next we have got that's the Lord of Dark. I think no, I want to save again. I kind of want to save the better boss fights. Next we've got the Headhunter, which I think this is one where you have to. Yeah, this one's hard to find how you have to turn and run when Odeo first appears, and then it's super weird, and then he's resistant to like everything. This is actually a cool boss fight. I'm gonna put in the A tier because it's like such a weird thing to have to. You have to go to the final boss and then be like, actually, I don't want to. And then you go back and then you have to fight Headhunter. And it's just cool. He gives you good equipment and he actually is pretty, lowers your stats. You have to hit, he resists all your stuff. So, it's actually a pretty difficult fight. So, yeah, I'm going to put it there. All right, next we've got the Lord of Dark, and this fight is just hilarious to me. I'm going to give it S tier. And here's why. He's like so easy. Like he has like 700 health or something, and the enemies have 300 in that place. And it's just hilarious how easy it is. And the 300 health enemies come like early in the chapter. So it's just tease. It's like supposed to be this hard fight. You have the party of 4, which is like pretty much the most you have for most of the game. You have this party of 4, and it's just the easiest boss ever. And I just think it's just a funny chapter because you fight this boss. You have and I think one if I remember correctly, spoilers, but I mean, skip like 20 seconds ahead. But one of your characters dies after fighting this guy, and it's just hilarious because it's such an easy boss. I don't know. I just find this a funny boss fight. It just was so underwhelming as a boss that I honestly had a good laugh. And his name is the Lord of Dark, and he's just this generic looking dragon. And you just beat it up, and it's so easy. If you even level up a little bit, you'll like 2-shot it, and so yeah, good fight, memorable fight, and you have a party of 4, which is a little more interesting. Actually, I'm gonna put it below this guy just because that's like genuinely good fight, and this is just funny to me. So yeah. All right. Next, we have one of the few like mini bosses in the game, and that is the Zaki fight from the prehistory chapter. You know what? It's fine. I'm gonna give it B tier. It's just you dueling Zaki as Pogo, and it's a pretty good fight. Nothing too special, but nothing bad either. I think it's pretty good. Nice little duel. Nothing too special. Definitely not nearly as good as this duel. So bring it down a little bit. Next we have Odie. Oh frick, what is the name of this one? It's the cowboy sundown. I'm losing it. Ode Iou something. Oh, Odeo. Yes, that's what it was. Odeo. Odeo is actually one of the Odeo fights I like more. I'm gonna put it in the A tier above the Headhunt. Yeah. What I like about this one is that first of all, there's just a ton of gang members joining the battle, so that adds a lot of stakes. You have to like actually try and stuff. Also, the weird plot twist after you beat this guy is so obscene and stupid that it's just funny. Like, why does he just turn into a horse all of a sudden? Like, it was so stupid. But also, his machine gun is actually pretty threatening. Like, this is a fun fight, and Sundown is always just a fun character to use. So ultimately, I think this kind of absolutely slaps the boss fight. So yeah, I think it's good. It could definitely be better, but I think that this is one of the better Odeo. Okay, I think I'm putting Lord of Dark a little too high. Let's switch those. I just think it's funny, but I don't think that's enough to justify it being that high. But yeah, I think that I mean, all the Odeo fights are really the standouts in this game, so I do think that this is one of the ones I like better. Now, the Mammoth King is honestly like an all-time great RPG boss fight for me. I think this is one, and same with Lord Iwama. Um, I'm going to throw them both up there right now. They're just masterpieces, in my opinion. They make you have to completely master. A lot of people are like, oh, it's based on luck, and I really don't think it is. I think you just have to master the tile usage of the game. You have to be perfect at the combat, and this is what I like to see. These are the type of super bosses I like. You don't have to just grind. It's not any of that dumb garbage, or you just have to grind for hours, or like make some crazy OP equipment. No, you just have to get good at the freaking game, and that's just awesome. Like, I think that these are going to be the only ones in the S plus tier. I think they're just too good for me, and I just really, really enjoy. Actually, I'm going to move this. Anyway, I really enjoy the Mammoth King and Lord of Walma fights. They're just way too good. They are just like, heck, yeah. Like, I feel like there's even a huge gap here. Like, S plus is probably like 4 times better than it. Like, these are some of my favorite bosses I've ever fought in a video, period. So that might be a bit of a flaming hot take that I like these bosses that much, but you know what? I just think it's great. So yeah. Now I'm gonna move into I'm gonna move Streibough. I'm gonna do this really quick. I think Streibough is pretty good. I'm gonna put him at top of B tier though. I don't find this fight that memorable. The surrounding story is really good, but I wouldn't say that's part of the actual fight. And I don't remember this fight like at all. And yeah, the story surrounding it is definitely like the best climax of the chapters, but I just can't justify saying that Streibough amazing fight. I know a lot of people do like this fight. I read some rankings. I see him putting it like number 2 and stuff, but I always see stuff about the story, and that's not really what I'm talking. And yeah, it is interesting that we do get a chapter boss that isn't an Odeo variant because Orsted is Odeo, but I just think that that's just, I don't know. The story is good. Story-wise, this is probably the top of the pack, but otherwise. All right, so Cubed Boss is actually going to go in the S tier, and part of that is just the biased fact that you don't get to fight anything else as Cube in that chapter. So it's just inherently fun because this is our first time actually using Cube, and I do just think that OD 10 is a great fight in general. The aesthetic is great. The fight, it's pretty easy, but it's just really cool that actually get to fight with Cube. Sorry, just yawning over here. But yeah, that we get to actually fight with Cube and Captain Squid. Distant Future is just like more of a visual novel type chapter. So actually getting to fight as Cube. If there are a bunch of other fights with Cube, this would probably honestly be like B or A tier. But I just think it's novel. Happy that we actually got to fight some. Okay, Ode Iou, the Japanese one, Twilight of Edo Japan. I'm gonna go throw it mid A tier. I do think what's cool about this one is there are 2 phases, if I remember correctly. He turns into like this weird animal thing afterward, and just having 2 party members does add some depth to it, so that's nice. I think it's a pretty good fight. Yeah, it's pretty good. Not too special. I would say it's one of the less memorable ones, but I do think that 2 phases does give it that edge. Actually, you know what? I'm going to move it down a little bit, actually. Yeah, I think these fights are more memorable. I'm going to put it top of B tier, actually. I think those ones are just quite a bit more memorable. So So yeah, Odeo, the Japanese one, I do like that it has two phases, but otherwise it was a bit forgettable. And in a chapter where the other bosses were just way better than the chapter bosses, it's kind of all right. Now we've got our good old mech fight, and this is just like a kaiju battle. I know I'm gonna put it in the S tier. Battle wise, yeah, it's pretty easy. It's pretty dumb, but you get to play as the freaking mech. Like, come on, I it was just fun. I like playing as the mech, and yeah, super satisfying in my opinion. All right, next we move into Odie O'Bright, which is definitely the dumbest name for one of the Ode. Really stupid, but you know what? It's okay. I'm trying to reference martial art, but yeah, anything where you have to play as Masaru is just like pretty low. I was thinking about putting all the different Masaru fights here, but I probably would have all put them all in D tier anyway. So yeah, I think, well, probably not, because learning the abilities is kind of fun, but I don't really count those as boss fights since they're just like the enemies of the chapter. Anyway, Odie O'Bright, it's like, it's so weird. He kind of just like jumps out of nowhere, and I don't really want to include story, but it just feels so forced that Ode O'Bright, and he's like, and then the way Masaru responds, I don't know, the dialogue is so bad in this scene for some reason. I was laughing out loud of how bad it was. I'm not going to say this is actually, I'm going to move these all down and then drop this in C tier. It's just mid. It's just the definition of mid to me. Like, this was not too memorable of a fight. I think this was just goofy. And yeah, Masaru is really not a fun character to play as, in my opinion. So yeah, there's that. All right, next we move into Odeo, the final boss of the game. And you know what? Yeah, this is a pretty good boss fight. First of all, he looks creepy as frick, so that's fun. Yeah, I don't remember this boss fight as much as some of the other ones, but I do remember that it's pretty solid. I want to give it top of A tier. It's a pretty good final boss fight. It's definitely not as good as some of the other ones. I do think, again, when you have the 4 characters, I just feel like this game didn't give their final chapter bosses enough health. Like, they were like, oh, King Mammoth, Lord Iwama will absolutely kick the butts of the players, and then for like an extra challenge or whatever, and then you fight the final boss and it has like no health, and you're like, okay, but could have we like tripled the health of that boss fight, and then maybe it would have actually been hard. But anyway, I still think it's a top of A tier fight. It's cool, definitely a satisfying final boss fight. All right. I think I'm gonna move some things around really quick. I think I'm gonna drop this one to the C tier. It's a good concept, but not a great fight. I'm also gonna drop this one to the C tier. It's just a pretty generic duel, and I'm gonna drop the Headhunter to the B tier. As much as it is a cool idea, I just want to round this tier list out a little more for when we drop in these next few things. All right. Next, we have got the Odeo fight, which I think is sick because you get your characters back and you get this party of 4 fight. It's a great battle. Is it too easy? Yes. But is it fun? Yes. So I'm gonna give it an A tier. I think this cube one is a little too high. I don't think it's S tier. I think we'll move this. Actually, no, I'm going to throw... Okay, this one was actually better than I was giving it credit for. I'm going to give that one the S tier, and then throw Odo, the T-Rex, up at the top of 8. I do remember this fight quite a bit more than the final boss. Again, the final boss I like more for the story reasons and stuff, but Odo was just a cool fight. It's a T-Rex, Odeo variant, and yeah, we get to play as the 4 characters, Pogo, Beru, Zaki, and the gorilla dude. I forgot his name. Gory, I think. Yeah, I think that's... Yeah, so it's just a fun T-Rex fight. It's kind of a sick boss battle, but yeah, it's just really, really good. So yeah, I want to throw it at the top of 8 here. think that's fair. And yeah, this one, I was forgetting. This one really is actually a pretty challenging fight. There's just so much. Okay, I think I rated the kaiju battle a little too high. So I'm actually going to throw this down in A and then throw that up in S. I think Odo and Odeo are definitely peak because Odeo actually has some challenge to it. There's a bunch of guys on the field and you really have to move so you don't get hit by the machine gun. And Odo, you just get a 4 character party. But yeah, and this one is a little too simple. This is too easy for a final boss. This is, yeah, just a little too simple again. And this one I just like for freaking goofiness. So, yeah, I think that's a fair A tier, whereas these ones are just a little more mediocre. Okay, I think that will balance that out well. All right. Odie O'Bright is definitely my favorite of the Odeo variants, and I'm going to throw that at the top of S tier. We get this sick boss gauntlet, or maybe I want to move it in S+. That's a tough one. You know what? I'm going to throw it up in S+. I think this is definitely the best Odeo fight in the game. You have to fight like a 10 boss bonk, a 10 like mini boss gauntlet before. I'm just counting it as part of this boss fight. And you have to throw them all, like you have to own all these bosses. And then during this final boss, you master your ultimate art and you just deck the dude across the table or whatever. It's just satisfying. It feels like it's perfect end to this revenge martial art thing. It's just awesome fight, and it actually poses a little bit of a threat because after all these boss fights, you're kind of just like worn down. I can't remember if you might get all your HP back after battle in this game, but either way, you're mentally worn down. And you're just like, oh, frick, here we go. And yet we get this awesome Wan Lee boss fight. Absolute masterpiece of a fight. Fantastic. And then the last thing on this list is when you play Orsted's final chapter and you fight as all of the Odeos and fight the battles against the different your characters. And honestly, yeah, this is an awesome battle. You know, I don't think it was as satisfying as these three, though. I'm going to throw it up at the top of S. I know a lot of people would probably say it's one of the best fights or whatever, but I do think that it's just a little too easy. It's more of a novel idea. It's not as fun as these fights. It's just super sick that we actually get to play as the bad guys and own the good guys. And that's just fun. But ultimately, and it does add some cool stuff to the story. And yes, I just put a picture of the characters because, we're fighting the characters. So, but I do think that it's a little bit worse than these top 3. I just think these 2 are just absolutely amazing. And this one, I'm just a sucker for boss gauntlets, and I just thought it was a great fight. And this one I had fun with, but it's not as memorable. The fights aren't too memorable. It's just the novel idea of it being super memorable. So I'm going to throw that at the top of S, not quite S+. Thank you all for watching this video. If you enjoyed this video, let me know down below what you thought. I'm sorry to... dang it, I forgot what the name of the guy was, but sorry that it took me so long to get out of this video, but I made a promise, and here we are. So thank you for joining me on this journey of Live Alive boss ranking, and I hope you have a great day. Peace out, RPG fans.